Hey guys, what is up and welcome back to my channel. As you guys see in the title, in this video I want to talk about how to keep your pets on a budget. Now I think you should never have to keep your pets on a budget. If you have pets, you have to be sure you have the means to provide for them. But a budget as in saving as much money as you possibly can, because obviously you can make it more expensive than it needs to be if you only buy the most expensive stuff, but that's the way it is with everything. So this is just the way I do it and how I save a lot of money on a lot of stuff that normally is really expensive. Obviously there's all of these tricks that I'm going to be showing you guys in this video on how to save money with your pets, but you always have to be prepared for costs that you don't expect, such as vet bills, for example. That's something really big. Sometimes stuff happens and you need to see a vet with your animals, and that can be very costly. Specifically, if it's like an emergency at night or something, sometimes that can be super pricey. So even if you keep your pets on a budget, so you try to save as much money as you can, sometimes it's just unexpected and you have to spend a bunch of money at once. But yes, here are some tips that I personally use to save some money with keeping my reptiles and not spend all of the money I earn directly on my pets. So I'll start with one of the most expensive things when keeping reptiles, which are the enclosures. Tanks are super expensive, specifically if you get full glass enclosures. They tend to be extremely pricey. I got one Exoterra enclosure that was the priciest enclosure that I own. It was, I think, 200 euros and it was already on sale. But Exoterra enclosures tend to be more on the pricier side. But honestly, I wouldn't pay that much anymore. That was when I just started, when I thought like, yeah, the best, I have to buy the best, which is not true. You don't have to buy name brand things in order to keep your pets safe and happy. It doesn't work that way. So how I go about it, I always check eBay, or well, in America probably you can check Craigslist. I don't know, here in Germany I mostly use eBay. We have another app that's called Your Animal World, Deine which is pretty good for stuff like that as well, even though I think usually stuff on eBay is still more cheaper than the stuff on that app. But I always check on these apps where people post the stuff that they're selling and check for enclosures that they sell. Now obviously that will always, not always, but mostly be used enclosures, but honestly it doesn't matter. Glass is super easy to clean, so you don't really have to worry about anything getting stuck in there and being transferred to your animal. So I really don't worry about that. When I see a nice enclosure for really cheap, I'll usually get it if I need it. For example, this one behind me is over 2 meters long, and I think I got it for 80 euros. So that was pretty cheap. And the enclosure my chameleon is in, I'll show you guys right now. This one. I think this one was 40 euros, so that's also really cheap. So honestly, it's always worth it to check on eBay and stuff to see what people are selling. I oftentimes got free enclosures or enclosures for like 5 euros. One time I went to someone who had owned a shop and he had to close for some reason that I don't know. And he was giving away all of his enclosures for 3 Kinder Surprise eggs for his children. So I took 6 and I gave them to the kids, and then I took as many enclosures as I wanted to. Hello. Same thing goes for decorations like hides or stones or whatnot. You can get so many used decorations from people who give up the hobby, or water bowls, for example, too. Because I know water bowls and hides tend to be super expensive if you don't get like plastic. If you want proper stone ones, they're usually really pricey. So, well, not stone, you know, artificial, but stone looking ones, they're really pricey. So it's always worth it to get those used as well, because you can just disinfect them as well, and they're good to go into your enclosure. So oftentimes people just give that away for free, so keep an eye out and you save a lot of money with that. Now I don't know if that happens in other countries as well, but here in Germany, when you go to the pet store to buy feeder insects, I usually go on the day when they get the delivery, the new delivery, because I like to get fresh packs. If I'm gonna pay money for them, give me fresh packs and not half dead ones. So I always go, here it's on Wednesdays usually. So I always go on Wednesday to get my feeder insects. And if they have leftovers from the week before, they usually give them away for free in the stores that I go to. So I will grab the ones that I need, and then when I go to the cashier register, um, they will usually give me like 2 or 3 more packs for free because I think they're legally not allowed to sell them anymore, or maybe it's just their shop policy. I really don't know. But they just put them on top for free because they can't sell them because obviously half of them are dead. So they give them away for free, or sometimes they give like a bundle for the price of one, something like that. So here it's very convenient. They give it away for very cheap or free if you go the week after the last delivery. So just see if your local pet shop does that too, if they just give it away for free or a lot cheaper. And basically that saves you a lot of money. Because sometimes even the packs from a week ago are still super full because these guys are super hardy and they don't die off that easily. But obviously you'll have to gut load them a lot before you feed them to your animals then, because they will be starved. So I usually put them in the boxes, keep them for a week, and then feed them off. So also about feeders, I breed my own feeders. That be mice and rats and insects. Now obviously not a lot of people, or well, not everybody wants to breed their own feeder mice and rats because they will get attached and they find it inhumane and stuff. So that's not for everybody, so that's really up to everyone themselves to decide if that's something they could do. Personally, I just can't do it with the rats. My rats are my pets, but the ASF and the normal mice, they're feeders, and I breed them myself to feed them off. Then I also breed all my feeder insects. I breed the crickets, I breed roaches, mealworms, superworms, and I try with grasshoppers, but I'm not like 100%, well, locusts. I'm not 100% there with locusts because they're a little more difficult. They need warmth and everything, so I'm still trying to figure that out, but with all the other ones it works fine. And obviously that will save you a lot of money as well. The only thing you really spend money on is some fruits that they eat and maybe some dog food, some kibble, put that in there as well because they eat that too. And that's really all they need. They need a box, some food, some places to hide, and that's all. Now obviously feeding the rats and mice is a little bit more pricey, but I still think that it's cheaper than to buy all your feeders. So going back onto the topic of decorations, I get all of the plants that I put into my enclosures from gardening or hardware stores. Here in Germany, hardware stores sell plants. I don't know how it is in other countries, but here they do, and it's usually where they are the cheapest. One thing I always make sure when I get a plant from the hardware store is to wash the roots and the leaves, because obviously they put fertilizers in and you don't want that anywhere near your animals. What I do is I usually keep the plant for at least 1 month out of any enclosure, just in my house, and then I still wash it to make sure that all fertilizers or anything, pesticides, I don't know what they put on. So I just make sure all of that is washed off, or it's been sitting for such a long time that there's definitely nothing on there anymore. And then I put it in. But I figured out that in pet stores, they overcharge you so much for plants. I bought like the tiniest little plant for like $10 or $8, something like that. And in the hardware store, they sell like huge plants for 3-4 euros. And then I buy a bunch of them and put them in my enclosures, and they look great. And yeah, basically it's just a good way to save money. Then for sticks and stones, I usually go into the forest. You really don't have to worry about getting stuff from the forest as long as you make sure that there's no critters on there. What you can do is boil your wooden sticks and your stones to make sure that there's no ants in there, because that will be quite harmful. But basically, if you get something from the forest, it really shouldn't be too dangerous for animals. Boil it or bake it in the oven for a little bit, and then everything should be sterilized and fine. Or what I sometimes do is I leave it in a plastic bag in my house for a couple of weeks, and then normally nothing can be on there anymore as well. And now my last point to save money in this reptile hobby is not to get designer reptiles from breeders, but to get animals from people who genuinely don't have the means to care for their animals anymore. Oftentimes people move or they start a new job and just their whole situation changes and they have to get rid of their animals. A lot of animal shelters have reptiles, and I just always think it's good to rescue. Now, obviously, if the species you really want and that you're really into, you can't find it anywhere except for from a breeder, obviously you want to go for that. Like, there's no questions asked that you, if you want a specific animal, should get it from a breeder. But if you really just want a ball python, a classic ball python, because you're into snakes and you just want to get started, check at your local shelter or check Craigslist, like I said before. Look if there's someone who's desperate to get their animals rehoused, and usually you don't pay a lot for that. I don't know how it is with shelters, how much they charge for snakes for a fee. I really don't know about that, but usually on Craigslist slash eBay, wherever, whatever app you have for stuff like that, they don't charge a lot if that's really an emergency going on, why they have to get rid of their animals. That's a way to save money, I figured. I always look on these apps to see if someone's really desperate and really needs help. Then I will usually take the animal in and keep it until I find a good home for it. That's what I do, or I keep it for forever, you know. That's what I do with a lot of my animals. I get them from people who don't know what they're doing or who really can't keep it anymore. So if you have any other recommendations on how to save money in the reptile hobby, please leave a comment down below. I'm really curious to hear what you guys do to save some money. Everyone likes saving money, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video.